Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Mr. Francy and this channel is called Mr. Francy Reads. If you are here for the first time, welcome. If you are returning, welcome back. Please do not forget to subscribe if you like this video because it does help my channel, and if you could give it a thumbs up, that would really help as well. But for you guys, to ensure you don't miss any videos that I put out, hit that notification bell, ding! If you click on all under the notification bell, you will receive all the videos, you'll get notifications for all of them, so you won't miss a thing. Before we go any further, I just want to make a point about the fact that I've been away for the past week. If any of you have been wondering what's going on with Mr. Francy, he usually posts every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, and for the past 7 days we haven't seen him. Where is he? I have been away. I do apologise. I was away a lot longer than expected. I expected to return on the 2nd. I returned on the 7th, so I have a lot of catching up to do. But we are here, so let's get right on into it. Talking all the books that I read in the month of December. This is my monthly wrap. Let's put the stats on the screen in 3, 2, 1, go. So for the month of December, I read a total of 12 books comprising of 4 fantasy, 2 cozy mystery, 1 thriller, 1 contemporary, 1 LGBTIQ+, 1 romance, 1 Christian fiction, and 1 classic. To my age groups, I had 2 YA, 8 adult, and 2 middle grade books. To my lengths, I had 0 tomes, which is not like me, but I had 1 3/4 tome and 6 half tomes, as well as 5 very small novellas. The total page count for me for the month of December was 2,364 pages, which is very short for me, and my star ratings were all over the board. I have 2 5 stars, 5 4 stars, 4 3 stars, and 1 2 star. Good news, no 1 stars. Alright, so let's get right into the books that I read for the month of December. Before we do, I quickly want to give a shout out to a book I DNF'd. We'll put it up on the screen. It is called Dear Santa. It just really wasn't the type of book for me. A little later on in my monthly wrap, you'll see I read another Debbie Maycomber book that I did love, but this one, it just wasn't working for me. But there are a lot of other booktubers out there that have read this book and absolutely love it, so feel free to check out their videos. And the first book we need to talk about, I need to put an image up on the screen because I didn't have this one either, but this one was planned, and that was book 3 in the Christmas Tree Farm series called Slashing Through the Snow by Jacqueline Frost. You guys, I love this series so much. Oh my goodness, I need to give the biggest shout out to Tiffany from Beach Bum Bookworm, who is amazing. If you don't follow her, you definitely should, because she's just so wonderful. Tiffany actually recommended this series to me when I was just starting to get into cozy mysteries, which I believe was in November of 2021. So I read book 1 and 2 in the Christmas Tree Farm series in November, and then in December I read book 3, which was the latest of the works, and I really just love this series as a whole. I wasn't really a fan of the murder so much in this book, and I wasn't really a fan of the murders that took place in the other 2 books either, but everything outside of that I love. The culture of this world and just, yeah, getting acclimated into this world didn't take long at all because I just fell in love with how Christmassy it was. But every time I went to pick up a new book in this series, I was just really excited to get back to Mistletoe, Maine. You guys, if you want to read a book that is Christmas, 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 Christmas to the umpteenth degree, there is no way, unlike Die Hard, that you can question, is this a Christmas series? It is. It is almost over the top Christmas, but in a good way. Then I highly recommend the Cozy Mystery series of the Christmas Tree Farm series by Jacqueline Frost. Now, with Slashing Through the Snow, I gave this book 3 stars. I just felt that the series had lost its touch a little bit for me, unfortunately. So that's how it is. But I am definitely going to continue on with the series because Jacqueline Frost has announced she's going to release a 4th book. The next book that I read in the month of December was this book, Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. This is an adult thriller. I gave this book 3 stars. So the basic premise of this book is that we're following a woman by the name of Jules, just had to check there, who ends up due to a set of circumstances being homeless, and she finds an advertisement in the paper looking for people to house sit at a very famous apartment complex, I guess, or hotel, something like that. And so she thinks, great idea, I can save money while house sitting. But there are a lot of rules if you're going to take up this position, and these rules, yeah, cause a little bit of chaos. I thought that the beginning was really good. The middle really lagged for me, which is where this book lost stars from me. But the conclusion was fantastic. It tied everything up really, really well. And for a big part of the book, I was wondering, why do we have these rules? It doesn't make sense to me. But the way it ended, I was like, yeah, that final climax was so good, and it answered everything I wanted to have answers. The next book that I read was this book, The Chance to Fly, by Ali Stroker. It's also by Stacey Davidowitz, but I believe Stacey did the illustrations. I think it was Ali Stroker who wrote the book, but if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Either way, the premise of this book is that we're following a girl by the name of Natalie, or Nat for short, who is paralyzed. She's in a wheelchair, but she has dreamed of being on stage and being part of a Broadway cast or a musical cast pretty much her whole life. And she ends up having to move interstate because of something out of her control. So she goes to a new school. It's set at an elementary school if you're American, primary school if you're Australian. So she has to learn to get along with new kids and see how they're going to deal with her being in a wheelchair and all this stuff. But very early on, the school announces that their production for the year is going to be Wicked, and that's her favorite musical of all time. So she auditions for whatever part she can get, and she has a really great time with this group of people who are also part of the school's production. It brought back a lot of memories for me. I say production because that's what we called it at my school. I was part of my high school musical theatre group pretty much from the earliest age that I could be, but we just called it high school production. And I was in high school production every single year that I could be in it. And I loved being on stage. I loved the rehearsals. I loved learning the new dance numbers or song numbers or whatever it was, my lines, whatever. But the biggest thing for me that I loved was hanging out with the niche group of people that we had because we were part of the production crew. And I definitely felt that Nat had the same thing with her crew, and I just loved reading this because it brought me back there. I also loved reading this because of disability representation. Not only is it done so well, but it makes sense why it's done so well. This is an own voices book. Ali Stroker is in a wheelchair as well, so she's able to write it from her own perspective, which I just loved so much. If you're going to have disability representation in a book as well as musical theatre representation, I am there. Jessica from Lady Lovestead Reads actually recommended this book. I saw it in one of her videos, and Jessica, thank you so much because I enjoyed this so much. 5 stars from me. The next book that I read was The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. This is, I believe, a YA fantasy. I'm so sorry, I keep looking down. Yes, it is a YA fantasy, and I gave this book 3 stars. So the basic premise of this book is that we're following a teenager. I have to remember she's 16 in the book, who is like Ebenezer Scrooge in A Christmas Carol. Our teenager here, whose name is Holly. Got 2 Hollies I read about this month. But this Holly was visited by the 3 ghosts of Christmas. So the ghost of Christmas past, the ghost of Christmas present, and the ghost of Christmas future. She, unlike Ebenezer Scrooge in the classic, did not change her ways. And so when she died, she was actually recruited by the Scrooge team and became the new ghost of Christmas past. Having heard this premise, I was really intrigued to read this. So I finally got around to it in 2021 in December, and I thought it was okay. I think the premise it was a little bit misleading, honestly. The premise is not lying, not at all. That is what happens, but I think my imagination kind of ran away from me because I was just thinking, oh, this is going to be like this, and it was nothing like what I thought it would be. Again, the beginning, great. The end, wonderful. The middle, wasn't really a fan of. I gave it 3 stars. I really thought it was going to be better than it was. So, from me, it was an average rating. Average read? Average rating. The next book that I read was Mr. Frosty Pants by Lita Blake. This is an adult LGBTIQ+ male romance, that is set around Christmas time. So you can see the little Christmas tree down the bottom there. I absolutely loved this book so much, but I have one big complaint. So this book received 4.5 stars from me. The reason it did was because I don't like smut books. I don't like bedroom sex scenes. I'm just not a fan of that type of thing, and it probably came up about 3 or 4 times in this book, and when the sex scenes did come up, they were incredibly graphic, and that's just not something that I enjoy reading. So, and I'll quickly explain why, in case you're wondering, why I don't enjoy it. For me, it disrupts the flow of a story. We may have it that, to set a scene that's not in this book, just to give you an example, we may have 2 characters who have massive plans the following day. They have to go and accomplish something. But first, let's go to the bedroom and have 10 pages or more where we are having this completely over-the-top graphic sex scene. And then after those 10 pages, we'll go and achieve what it is we want to achieve. To me, it completely disrupts the flow. And so I don't like that. So I took off a 0.5 for that because I just didn't really enjoy it at all. And I was listening to it on audiobook. Whenever I got to the sex scenes after the second one, I was skipping along, like just go, okay, how do I skip out of the sex scene? So yeah, I had to deduct for that. But otherwise, the story was wonderful. It's basically a Romeo and Juliet retelling, kind of, where we have 2 guys who, one is from the wrong side of the tracks and the other one comes from a rich family. They both love each other. Can they overcome all the obstacles placed in front of them to end up in a loving and caring relationship? It was just really well done. I really appreciated everything about this book except for the sex scenes. So I was disappointed to go back to 4.5 with this one, but I had to. But otherwise, really good. If you're looking for an LGBTIQ plus male Christmas story, I recommend this. I thought it was fantastic. Future Mr. Francy here, just popping in because I did forget to discuss one of the books that I read in the month of December, and I would be remiss if I did not include it here. So, in fact, the next book that I read was Jingle All the Slay by Dakota Cassidy. This is an adult cozy mystery, and I gave this book 4 stars. I would not have known about this book if not for Stormy from Storm Reads, so thank you, Stormy. I really, really appreciated it. So the basic premise of this book is that we follow a girl by the name of Holly, I believe, no, Halliday Valentine, who is a psychic witch, and she lives in Marshmallow Hollow, which is why this book is the first book in the Marshmallow Hollow series. So, very interesting things that prop up during this book to do with her psychic abilities, which I really appreciated, as well as she has some interesting animals, and there is more to those animals than meets the eye. I just thought this was wonderful. My only complaint with this book, and the reason why I took off a star, was surrounding its length. The edition that I read was 220 pages long, and it just really detracted from allowing me to get to know the main characters better. I wish that I had had that opportunity, but aside from that, I do love the world so much, and I definitely want to continue on with the Marshmallow Hollow mystery series. Alright, back to our regular scheduled programming. The next book that I read was this book, Dashing Through the Snow, which was the other Debbie Maycomber book that I picked up. And you know what? I love this. I gave it 4.5 stars. So I thought it was great. I don't know what was going on with me and Dear Santa, but I love Dashing through the snow. I'm so sorry, Jacqueline Frost. The premise of this book is that we're following a woman by the name of something. Ashley. We're following a woman by the name of Ashley Davidson who wants to travel home to her mother's place for Christmas because she now no longer needs to work over the Christmas holidays, so she would like to go and surprise her. Unfortunately, she's unable to fly because all of the seats on every plane that she could catch, they've all been booked. So she doesn't know what to do. She ends up going over to a rental place to rent a car, and that is the last car that this company has. And there is a guy who ends up joining her at the reception desk who wants the same thing. And through a set of circumstances that play out, the two of them, Ashley and this guy, whose name is Dashing through the snow, Ashley and Dash end up driving together because he needs to get to a job interview, she needs to get to her mother's, and they're in the same sort of area. So, yeah, kind of gave me some When Harry Met Sally vibes. a little bit, but I really enjoyed it. My only issue was that this book is either multi-perspective or has omniscient narration. I'm still trying to work it out. I wish it was singular perspective with just Ashley, because the more characters we added in that we were getting the perspective of, the more it was throwing me off. Without giving you a spoiler, we get to a situation where we're following the perspective of these two kids, and it just did not make sense to me why. I think it was about the halfway mark or something. We're suddenly following these new characters that we didn't know. I found that jarring. It makes sense, like, in the context of things, when I think about the fact that I've finished the book now, I get why they were there, but I don't get why we followed their perspective, and any other random perspective that came up, it just made it a little bit confusing, because the new perspectives would come up chapters later and not just, in the second or third chapter or whatever. But I did enjoy it all in all, and I gave it 4.5 stars. The next book that I read was this book, Timepiece by Richard Paul Evans. This is book 2 in the Christmas Box series. I have watched the Christmas Box film many times. Last year, for the first time, I read the Christmas Box book, and this year I read book 2. My plan for next year is to read book 3, and so on and so forth. So there's not really a lot I can tell you about book 2 because it is book 2, but the basic premise of book 1 in the series is that we have a family of 3, a mum, a dad, and their little girl, and the mum wants to move out of the apartment they live in because it is too small for their little girl. The mum sees an advertisement in the paper advertising for a live-in family to come and live with an elderly widow who is having trouble taking care of herself, but they will instead get to stay with her, as well as getting paid to do this work. The mum wants to jump at the opportunity. The dad doesn't think it's a good idea. Eventually, they end up, well, when I say eventually, like 2-3 chapters in, they end up getting hired to stay there, and the dad learns a major Christmas lesson along the way. Book 2 continues on with the story. So we have some things that end up happening at the end of book 1, some massive changes that would occur for book number 2, and I just think that book number 2 was handled really well. We had a lot of backstory about a particular character in this second book, and I really, really appreciated getting to learn more about that character. Anyway, 4.5 stars from me, and I'll definitely continue on with my read of the series. The next book that I read was this book, The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. This is an adult classic book. I gave this book 4 stars. So, okay, I thought going into this book that I had read this book before, but apparently what I've read is an abridged version of this book. For those of you who don't know what that means, unabridged, when you have a book that is unabridged, it means you get the entire book. An abridged version means that it is shorter, it is condensed. So I've read an abridged version, but this is the unabridged version, and I have to say that all the things I love about the abridged version I've read many times, I still love in this book. Sometimes I liked the additional stuff that wasn't in my other version that I've read, and at other times I found it to be like extra padding that really wasn't needed, and I get why the unabridged version exists, because it wasn't necessary. But I end up giving this book 4 stars. I do love this book. I love these animals. If you don't know, it is a well-known classic, adult classic. Well, I classify my classics as adult, but it's a well-known classic. We are following a bunch of animals, a mole, a rat, a toad, a badger, and many others along the way as they go through some adventures in this woody, willowed area. And I just love it. I just think it's so cute. And I, didn't regret it. The only thing that let me down was the extra padding. But I highly recommend this if you haven't read it before. It is really easy to read. There are a lot of classic books out there that are not easy to read, but this one really is. The writing is very straightforward. But I really appreciate it. 4 stars. The next book that I read was an absolute disappointment for me, and I have so many feelings. But let's just quickly get to it, shall we? I'm referring to this book, which is Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I am obsessed with my dear Brando Sando. This is the first book of his in a series that I was going to read that is a middle grade series. There is a book that I've read. If you're a Brando Sando fan, you've read a lot of his books. I read Edge Dancer last year. It is not marketed as a middle grade, but it should be. But considering that was not marketed as a middle grade, and this is technically the first middle grade that I've read from Brandon Sanderson, and I did not like it. And this is the first time since I started reading Brando Sando in February of 2020 that I'm saying, I just really did not like this. So again, not again, but this book does something that I've begun to realize that I don't like. And that is, just me personally, I don't like it. I'm not a fan of authors who break the fourth wall. I just don't like it. I, in my mind, can picture myself being somewhere. I don't need you, the author, to tell me that I'm there, and if you do it once, it's fine, I'll deal with it, but if you do it many times, it's going to get to me. This book breaks the fourth wall at least once a chapter, and the portion that breaks the fourth wall at least once in every chapter, in each sequence where it breaks the fourth wall, lasts for a good 5-6 pages. So it's not like, oh, we're just going to break the wall quickly and say, dear reader, how would that make you feel? Moving on. No, it's like, okay, dear reader, so now I'm going to talk to you because I haven't talked to you yet in this chapter, and It just did not work for me. Also, I did not appreciate the magical ability that Alcatraz has, which I'm trying to remember what the heck it's called, but this book was just an absolute disappointment for me. I gave it 2 stars, and I just did not think that was going to happen. I did originally plan to purchase the entire series first, and then begin. I'm so glad I only purchased book 1 because I'm not going to be purchasing book number 2. And it's just really sad because it's Brando Sando. But I just think for me, with Brando Sando, it needs to be YA or adult, because so far, this one and Edge Dancer, which to me is a middle grade, I just really didn't like them. And now moving on from a book that I was very disappointed with and gave 2 stars to a book that I absolutely loved. I know you guys have been waiting for me to finally read book 1 in the series, and I did. Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon Maguire. Okay, so very quickly, if you're new here and you don't understand what I was just saying, because, you know, it's an in joke, I read book number 2, Down Among the Sticks and Bones. I read in November, which is book 2, and then I read book 1, Every Heart Doorway, in December. Why? Because the booktuber that I discovered this series from highly, highly, highly recommended you read book 2 first, because book 1 spoils book 2. And I am here to tell you, before I even discuss how I feel about the book or what happened in the book, I am here to tell you that booktuber was 100% correct. Guys, I am such a series purist that I will always read a series in order. Book 1 and then 2 and so on. I'll always read in chronological order. But I'm so glad I took that booktuber's advice. In this book, just to quickly explain the spoiler thing without giving you the spoiler, but to explain why you need to read book 2 first before I get into everything else. In this book, we are following a protagonist. This protagonist ends up going somewhere where she, among others, meets a pair of twins whose names are Jack and Jill, nicknamed Jack and Jill, short for Jacqueline and Gillian. And at different parts throughout different moments throughout this book, she is with the both of them. Then there's a moment where she's with one of them, there's a moment where she's with the other, and then she's with both of them again, and so on and so forth. When she has one-on-one time with each of these twins, they tell her about their backstory. Book number 2 is said backstory. So you're literally getting the Cliff Notes version of book 2 in book 1. And it is spoilery because book 2 is literally only their backstory, and we know everything about their backstory in book 1. So I do very highly recommend read book 2, then read book 1. In saying that, I was a bit up in the air with book 2, being that it was so unusual for me to start at book 2 before going into book 1. But I said once I'd read book 1 that I would go back and revisit how I feel about the series so far, now that I've read both. And this book was fantastic. This was the introduction that I expect from a fantasy series. The world building was amazing. The characters were so diverse that it just made for such an amazing cast of characters. The plot was so good. It kept me on the edge of my seat for the whole book. This was fantastic, you guys. I just cannot fault this book at all. So we're following a girl who ends up going to a orphanage called the Home for Wayward Children. The series is called the Wayward Children series, so that's why. When she gets there, she realizes that this is a very special orphanage because everyone who is here has gone to some sort of fantastical land or other and has returned to Earth and is struggling to be back in mundane human society. So our main characters obviously experience this as well, and we learn more about her experiences as we go throughout the book, but we also learn the experiences of others, obviously including Jacqueline and Gillian. But for this book, 5 stars, overwhelming 5 stars. If you like fantasy or anything about going through a door into a hidden world or whatever, I think you'll love this. And the final book that I want to talk to you guys about is Fieldscape by Aaron Lynch. This is a book that I have not finished yet, but I am so close. I'm there, which is about 40 out of roughly 50 pages, and so I will have this finished, but today, but I didn't want to put the monthly wrap off any longer because it's been put off long enough already. So because I'm so close to the end, I have given this book a star rating. So I'll tell you what that is. If that changes between now and me editing this video, then right down there, you will see a new star rating from me. If you don't see a new star rating from me, then we're just going to go with what I have now, which is that I'm giving this book 3 stars. The reason I'm giving it 3 stars is because it's an average book to me. This book was built up very much in my mind in comparison to what it actually is. When I was told about this book, it was by a booktuber who absolutely loved it and was just going on and on about how much they loved this book. And all I really knew that was spoiler free was that it's set in a labyrinth with a woman trying to find her way to the center, and things happen along the way, which if you've read the Harry Potter books reminds me of the 3rd task for the Triwizard Tournament. So I was really excited to go into it. Yeah, it was fine. From what I've read so far, it's fine. It's nothing fantastic. It was nothing terrible. It was just, oh, okay, and then this happened. Oh, okay, and then this happened. Okay, so now we need to do this, and you know, it's fine. So barring an absolutely disastrous or terrible ending, I will keep it to 3 stars. If the ending is terrible, I'll go down 1 star, and if the ending is fantastic, I'll go up 1 star, because endings have a major impact on my star ratings. So at the moment it's 4 stars, but that could go up. Sorry, at the moment it's 3 stars, but that could go up to 4 or down to 2. But anyway, that is it. Those are the 12 books that I have almost read. 10 pages away. Let's say that I've read them. 12 books that I read for the month of December with very mixed results. Have you read any of these books? And if so, what were your thoughts on them? Let me know in the comments below. And also in the comments below, let me know what your favourite or least favourite book that you read in December was. I'm intrigued to see that too. But in the meantime, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It really does help my channel to grow. We are growing, you guys. This is just incredible. I did not think I was going to get past 300, and I think on last check I was at about 325, and that's just in the space of a week. Give yourselves a round of applause. This is blowing me out of the water, you guys. Thank you so much. But if you are new here, please do hit that subscribe button. It really does help my channel. And of course, do not forget to hit the notification bell, ding, to ensure you receive all the videos that I do put out. You receive those notifications. But in the meantime, we are here for 2022, so Happy New Year, and letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I will see you again in my next video, and of course, happy reading!